and there is about a what you understand what Splaying History is. Anyways, this is my first of few more videos of the end of this year, and I will not come back to next year because I am visiting my sister soon. Don't worry, I will come back just by the start of next year. And by next year, I will continue on making videos even in the summer. That is until I haven't had to visit again. So this Splaying History, it started when we started to have a reminder of what our world is and how a certain thing reflects that, unfortunately, nowadays. There has been many things that had changed over the time, but none had been bad changes since after the effects of what people think of what should and should be shown to certain audience nowadays. If you wanted to experience that with media, if you want to be known to be careful of what to look at by media standards, then just read a comic. It help you understand. In fact, read what Splaying History, today's episode of Splaying History is all about. Superman. That's right. Reading a Superman comic will help you actually, being careful of what comic you should and shouldn't read. This makes sure it's only the Superman comics that you're allowed to read at any age. Just remember, that whole, you can read a Superman comic and you can to be careful by reading one. Now, before I get to there and before I get to history and how that changed, let me show you the history of the character himself. So Superman was created by two people named Joe Shuster and he was created by two people and those men and both of those men, originally had an evil being called Superman, but decided to change it. The two men are Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel. They're the ones who created Superman, and created him they did by first appearing in Action Comics #1 of June of 1938. So basically, Superman was one of the most popular characters, but he is still as popular to this day, but that's not the reason why we're here. See, 1938, actually 50, is considered the golden age of comics. And Superman back then was one of the most well-known heroes of that time. Still is, but regardless, this was when comic books started introducing the superheroes, started introducing DC and Marvel superheroes, started with DC with Superman. Now, you remember that DC, remember that this was the most popular DC heroes, but the time near the end of the 40s were around after World War II, superheroes slowly started to not become popular. That's why many of them end up by the Golden Age, end up not being around as much. The only heroes that survived after the Golden Age for a while was Superman, was Batman, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Yes, Superman was one of those three surviving superheroes of the Golden Age right after it had ended. So they started focusing on other genres, and since then, a man called Frederick Wertham made a book called Seduction of the Innocent, and that led to 1954 with the creation of the Comics Code Authority. You don't know, the Comics Code Authority at the time was responsible for censoring books that was too much for children at the time. So you imagine, that Superman was censored and had to rely on silly adventures. And this was creation of the Silver Age, aka the most toned down era of superheroes, including Superman himself. I mean, have you read the Superman Silver Age comics? They're kind of silly. They really are silly. Yeah, this coming in silly, weird science fiction type stuff. But during all that time, before that, during all that time in the comics, he actually appeared in many other media, starting with animated cartoon form in 1941, where he created the line, "He's faster than speeding bullets." And fun fact, Superman originally did not have flying as one of his superpowers. No, sir. The cartoon explained that he can just leap up from buildings. Yeah. He just leaped off from buildings. Leaped tall buildings in a single bound. Yeah. And then, a few years later, he made his jump to animated to live action in 1948 with a 15-chapter serial just called Superman. Yeah, just called Superman. He, in that live action serial was played by a man called Kurt Allen. And then, in 1951, he got his own TV movie entitled Superman and the Mold Man, where he was voiced by George Reeves. And then, a year after, in 1952, that TV movie became an upcoming pilot for a TV series called The Adventures of Superman, where he also be played by the same actor. Now, sadly, as you can tell, George Reeves' life didn't last as long. Unfortunately. Yeah. That's why, and then there was this Broadway show in 1975 called It's a Bird, It's a Plane. And yeah, during this time he was in, other media outside of comics. But anyways, after a while, in the start of the 70s, we got into the Bronze Age, thanks to it being a bit longer and a bit more serious, thanks to the Comics Code Authority being less strict of what to show and what not to show. This all happened during the Bronze Age up until 1985 on Crisis of Infinite Earths. Yes, there's now Crisis. This, however, rebooted the entire DC universe. And after the Crisis event, Superman became more popular. Superman had to have his story rebooted as well. So basically, this is where Superman comics, started to dip themselves of what people now call retcons. Now, I don't know what a retcon is. Basically, it's events in the story where it takes something in the story and have to change it to match what's going on in the universe at that time. And boy, were there many Superman retcons. You might as call them super retcons. Yeah, so that is a retcon. But during all this time, this was during the modern age of comics. And during all this time, during the 70s and 80s, Superman had 4 live-action theatrical release movies played by George Reeves, who also wasn't live as long. And also, it stopped at 4 movies, but ended up being, paved way for live action shows like Superboy, Lois and Clark, and of course, Smallville. Yes, there was a Superman TV series called Smallville. But this paved the way for another 5th live-action movie called Superman Returns, starring Brandon Routh. During all this time, Superman was, having more outside media, and to this day, he's still popular. And because of his popularity, he's now had his stories told in a cinematic format, in the DCEU, starting with Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, the Justice League, and the Justice League, Zack Snyder cut. Yes. You don't know what happened. We'll explain it in another video sometime soon, so it's not going to get confusing why there's 2 versions of the Justice League movie. And he even has told his stories in other universes, such as Superman Red Sun, the New 52, and of course, let's not forget the Injustice story, where Superman had to be a character that slowly turned evil, thanks to some kind of continuity and all that stuff. Yeah, there's a bunch of different Superman stories you can point out and still be familiar with the character. What comics do I request you read for Superman comics? What type of movies and TV shows you watch and for to be easier for you to pick up a comic? Well, that all depends. You know, anyway, Superman is what he's called himself, the symbol of hope. He's for truth and justice. There is comics where he is part of the Justice League. There is comics where he had died a couple of times. There is one time where he some reason had a mullet. There was, many other Superman comics where he, had to do a bunch of awesome different things. You want to understand what his adventures are like. Just find any comic, pick up any comic, Superman, but make sure it's a appropriate comic. Please be very careful what Superman comics you want to read. So be very careful and just, pick up one. Just find a thing, any comic you like about Superman. And trust me, we all need, trust me, we all need to understand. We all need to understand that not everything in the world is good. Not everything can give us hope like Superman can. But does it mean we are hoping for certain things to get better in the future? Anyways, I met the comic guy. Hope you enjoy my explaining history of Superman. See you next time for the next couple of videos. Bye.